Hi, everybody. This is Alice, and I am here without my partner, Seneca. She's not feeling well today, so I'm doing this one on my own. Today, I'm going to talk about resistance and how, partly because I recently have discovered that I was in resistance over a few things, but also partly this is just something that's common to everybody. So it's something you either are facing or will face or have faced or possibly all three. So I wanted to kind of talk to you a little bit about what it is and then some tools that I have that I found particularly helpful in overcoming it. So in the church, we tend to spiritualize everything. And while resistance can be directly spiritual warfare, enemy involvement, it isn't necessarily. Sometimes it's just our own inner battles and resistance to doing the thing that God's gifted and called us to do. So we can have our own negative belief systems, all of those kind of things, which of course the enemy is very happy to capitalize on and to make sure that we don't do the thing that God gifted and called us to do. So, but it may or may not be the enemy. So you can use your spiritual warfare tools if it's something you're still slogging through. Sometimes it's just you need to persevere through. I have found, and I have noticed in all the people that I've worked with over the years, that it's never, even if you do get rid of the enemy involvement in that, it's not that it's ever easy. Resistance is still something that is difficult. It's something that we have to press through in order to achieve the desired end that we have. So, and this can be in all aspects of your life. It's not, I'm going to be mostly talking about business because this is kind of the purpose of these series of videos for you. But it also happens if you're, anytime you're trying to do something good, if you're trying to establish a new habit spiritually or emotionally, mentally, health-wise, all of those things. This resistance is something that really does not, it literally resists you doing something good for yourself or for others or whatever. So that it literally is what it says on the tin. It resists, it's resistance. So it pushes against you and contrary to the direction in which you really need to be going. So this is something, again, that you will face throughout your life. I have found that resistance does get easier in a way. It's easier for me to recognize that that's what it is. And so then I'm more determined to press through. It's not that it gets easy, like that I don't ever notice it. It's never a problem. And just like I'll share with you here in a little bit, I recently was like, oh, hey, that would be resistance. Okay, now we know what to do with that thing. So it's never easy in the sense that it's not resistance. So, but you do develop just kind of better understanding of what it is, better ability to recognize it when you see it, and then you have the tools at your disposal that you have found successful for you in the past and pushing through it. So, and to a certain extent, it's just determination. I don't like to use the term willpower, partly because it kind of has different connotations for a lot of people, that it really brings on a lot of negativity, a lot of shame, a lot of that kind of thing. Oftentimes, it's a lack of understanding the importance of what it is that you are wanting to do. Sometimes some of the kind of the biggest things that I've had have just been, to me, very fleeting and like, oh, okay, that wasn't a big deal. But was like, well, that sure was difficult to actually do it though. And then when I put it out there into the world and get the feedback from people, I'm like, oh, that was a bigger deal than I thought it was. That's why it was so hard to do it. And I tend to be kind of stubborn and tenacious, so I tend to push through things. That's an upside of that character trait. um, but one of the things, so it can look like many different things. Oftentimes it's a distraction. So it's like a shiny object syndrome. You're going off in a new direction. Physical ailments can also be a resistance for yourself or for others. So we're connected to the people around us. So sometimes when we're trying to press through something, then other things can happen in the people's lives around us that cause us to shift our focus. So procrastination tends to be a big one for all of us. And and a lot of times you'll hear a lot more. It's almost like the voices of people around you who are oftentimes facing their own resistance, and they are it's a challenge if you are in resistance, even if this isn't a conscious thing. So it's not like people are consciously thinking, I'm going to sabotage this person. Probably there are a few, I'm not going to say never, but very rarely. Like that isn't something that typically most people want to see other people that they like fail. Now, if you don't like the person, that's a whole other situation. But typically what I'm talking about here is not people that really want to see you fail, but they're more comfortable with you not pursuing the thing that God created you to do, because then that makes them feel guilty for not doing the same in their own life. That isn't necessarily something that you're going to want to, if that is happening, you're going to have to tread that one very carefully, so that you don't destroy those relationships, but you don't want to allow that to continue. So you need to put some boundaries in place, but you obviously want to encourage them to defeat their resistance, which you, by defeating yours, will help them in the long run, if they're the least bit predisposed to to do that. And you can't control that about other people, so that isn't on you. That isn't, even really about you. It's just a reflection of where they are. So hopefully that will help in case you have some others that are contributing to the resistance in your life. So one of the scriptures that I always kind of hear in my head is Paul in Romans 7. He says, the things that I want to do, I don't do. And that I don't want to do, that's what I find myself doing. And he's talking about it in kind of the context of the law and grace and a lot of those kinds of things. But I think it particularly applies here. If it's like, okay, the thing I want to do, I'm not doing, and the thing I don't want to do, that's what I'm doing, you kind of have, that's that resistance, that kind of push you, pull me kind of thing happening within you that may be indicative of resistance. So kind of watch for that dynamic. And one thing, for a lot of things, you can use momentum to overcome it. And resistance is that way. That's part of one of the things I think Seneca and I've talked about multiple times. We tend to move quickly. If we decide we're going to do something, then we get up and we do it. And partly that is a defense against resistance, because if you're moving too fast for it to catch up with you, then you get it done and then everything's fine. But oftentimes there will be like a fresh attack of resistance towards right at the end, like you're nearly finished. And I know Seneca's talked in the past about being 20 minutes to done. So there's a lot of times that right at the finish line, just before it, resistance will happen again. So if you notice like you're like nearly there and then Probably that would be resistance. So for me, that was kind of one of my, like I said, I tend to move quickly. I like to finish things. That I have a very, that's just my personality. I love to start things, but also like to have things done. I love checking things off of my to-do list. So I will even put things on the to-do list so I can check it off. um, but there were a couple of things that I was in the process of, and I just couldn't seem to get any, I couldn't get any traction with it. I just couldn't figure out what I wanted to do, how I wanted to do it. And I picked up, and I do recommend that you read this book. It's The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. And I read it years ago, and I picked it up again, and I'm reading through it. I'm like, oh, yep, that's what that is. And as soon as I recognized it, then I employed a couple of the tools that I'm going to teach you here in just a little bit. And I've been able to get clarity on what I want to do, how I want to do it, and I got it done. So there are still aspects of it that I still need to do, but I now recognize, okay, this is resistance, and I've got it scheduled, and these are the days that I'm going to work on it. This is what I'm going to do when, and that's just going to be the way it is. Okay, so I'm checking my notes to make sure everything. And I think I have. So we're going to do, and I always get a little nervous when I'm teaching this. So I have my cheat sheet up there, and I'm going to get my phone, what to use for a timer. So what this tool uses the energetic system within our bodies. So it is the way God designed that our bodies would work. I don't really understand all of the hows and the whys, but the scriptures kind of allude to the fact that we can store negativity within our systems, like that bitterness goes down into deep within us. And so things can get stuck. And oftentimes part of the resistance, or part of the, or a big part of the difficulty in overcoming the resistance, is the fact that we've got a lot of negative energy, negative emotions, negative beliefs, negative self-talk, a lot of that head trash going on inside us that is contributing to that resistance. So this tool I particularly like when and like for me, that's where I was, okay, I don't know why I'm having such a hard time with this, but I know that I am. So you don't have to know specifics. You just know there's something negative there that I need to overcome. And I like to, so this is a tool depending on your belief system and where you're coming from. Most of you, I would guess, would be Christians, but if you're not, then this tool is agnostic. It is not dependent on faith. It is a mechanical tool that you can use. Just like if you flip the light switch on in your house, the light bulb comes on. So it doesn't really care if you think about it or not, or you believe it or not, or, if you have purple hair that day, like it just doesn't care. This is the way it works. And so it does what it does. What I like to do, however, is I like to tie it to, I like to use my faith or tap into my faith and tap into the things that God has said about me in use of the tool. So that way I feel like I get a lot more bang for my buck because I am reinforcing what God has said. So there's kind of two halves to the tool. The first half is we're acknowledging what we're struggling with. So we're acknowledging the resistance. We're acknowledging all of the negative feelings that are swirling around us or that we're feeling about this resistance. So, that'll be 2 minutes. We'll tap 2 points for a minute apiece. And then we'll switch. The last half of the tool, we're going to be telling our system, telling our energetic system, this is the truth. this is the positive that we want to believe, we want to reset our system to accept. So, and that also is 2 minutes. So it's a 4-minute tool in total. First, you're going to put your right hand on your your solar plexus, or just like right below your rib cage where your ribs come up, right there in the middle on your sternum, or the lowest part of your sternum. And then on your left hand, just kind of like where your heart is, just to the left of that. You're going to hold both points throughout the tool, or throughout the 2 minutes, while you're tapping each of them in succession. So we'll tap the first one, the lower one, for 1 minute, and then we'll touch the upper one, or tap the upper one for a minute, but you're going to hold both of those points throughout that. Then you're going to be thinking about the negative feelings, emotions, the resistance, all the things surrounding this resistance issue for you. Then we're going to switch to these points here. Just if you can see, I'll do from the side. So right at the base of, kind of right, if you bend your wrist, right at that crease, not on your palm, on your wrist, but just under there. So, and then here, just in, not all the way to the side, just in. So it's going to be that point there and that point there. So we'll do the right hand first and then the left hand. And we'll be rubbing those clockwise. And I always have to stop and think, because I always want to do it counterclockwise for some reason. So we'll do clockwise on both points, thinking about the positive, thinking about inputting what God has said about you and about the situation, if that's helpful for you. But you're replacing all the negative stuff with the positive stuff. So in the first, by tapping, by thinking about it, you're releasing the negativity. And then by doing these 2 points here, you are inputting the positive. So, and nearly everyone I've ever done this tool with notices a pretty significant shift, not necessarily in the moment, but it tends to be very, very powerful at helping you to get moving again and get past that resistance. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get my clock ready, and I'm going to walk you through this. So that way you can actually, you can stop this, and you can come back to this point, and do this tool however often you need to. So it's one of my favorites. Okay, so touch your below your rib cage, the lowest part of your sternum, and then touch here, and you're going to be tapping the lower point and thinking about releasing the negativity. Just think about all of that negativity. Okay, go ahead and go. You're still thinking about the negativity? Still tapping that first point. Okay, then hold that point and tap with your left hand, the upper point, still thinking about releasing that negativity, all those negative emotions. Still thinking about releasing the negative emotions. Okay. And then rubbing clockwise on your right wrist. Think about the positive. Think about what God says about you, about the situation. This, even just thinking about the opposite of what you were struggling with earlier. Think about the positive. Still thinking about the positive. Okay. And then switch to your left wrist. Still rubbing clockwise, and thinking about the positive, the opposite, and or what God says about you and the situation. Still thinking about the positive, what you want to see. Okay, good. And then I like to tap just here on the very side, tap it in. That just kind of um, tells your system this is the change that we want you to accept. So, kind of like hitting the enter key on your keyboard. Okay, so that is the tool that I used, and or one of the tools that I used, and that tends to be the one that's um, kind of like I said, my go-to for anytime I know that there's a problem, but I'm not sure exactly what it is. So I have other tools that are better for specific issues. So, and that's one of the things, one of the other kind of secret weapons for resistance is surrounding yourself with a community of people who are going in the same direction that you're doing and not necessarily doing exactly the same thing, but just like surrounding yourself with a group of supportive people who are in pursuit of God's best for their life. They're in pursuit of a godly business, or whatever it is that you are wanting to do, or having resistance towards. So, and that is one of the things that a couple of the things that we offer in our foundations class, Foundations for Supernatural Business. It's our full it's based on a year's worth of class. Some people take it more than once. We do live Q&As twice a month, and we have like tech support things, that type of stuff. In the class itself, we have some of my head trash tools, and that's something that people have also brought up during the Q&As, and we've dealt with resistance as a group, or with just whatever head trash is happening at the moment that's keeping people blocked and not able to move forward. So, and sometimes other people are able to spot, especially when you're kind of, they can spot when you're going off and you're in resistance quicker sometimes than you can. So it's helpful to have people around you who are rooting for your success. So if you've got a group of people in your life, that is fabulous, and we're very excited for you. But if you need that kind of support, as well as all the other great things that you get part of the class, then we invite you to join us and at the Foundations for Supernatural Business class, and the link will be in the description for that. So, and there is, I think I mentioned it, I'll mention it again. There's a section in the class where I talk about some of my other head trash tools as well that people find helpful. So, and as for me, now that I've recognized I was in resistance and I used my tools, then I've gotten a lot of things accomplished, and I'm really excited. I'm moving again. So, and one of the things maybe I didn't mention before, but for me, I tend to be very frustrated if I'm in resistance. So, because it's a very frustrating place to be. So that kind of makes sense. But so I kind of have that joy and excitement, as opposed to kind of the slog and resentment towards what I was doing. So and that's all good things. So I hope that to see you in our Foundations class, and I hope that this talk about resistance and the tool has helped you a great deal. Have a great day.